Yeah, I guess what makes the Youth G20 special is I guess it's a level of reality. It's not disconnected from senior state leadership structures. A lot of the youth delegations coming through have been briefed directly by their foreign affairs departments, by their departments of international relations and cooperation. So it goes from just being a simulation and a mimic to being far more tangible, more practical. And I think what makes it even more exciting is, yes, even though it's a more accurate reflection of what's actually happening at an official state level, I think what makes the way that a lot of the youth delegations engage with those topics is that they feel less limited to, less restricted by state policy, and they're far more open to cooperate and move around and be flexible around some of the ideas, which is why I think a lot of the recommendations going forward end up being invariably very innovative, because they aren't necessarily as bound by some of those suggestions as the actual state leadership structures are, and that makes it special in the youth context. I guess just BRICS in general, the parallel with the G20 is that it continually shows a far greater representation of the role of emerging markets in the global political economy today. And I think what was quite exciting about the focus points of the discussion now in the BRICS Summit end of March in South Africa is that the BRICS Summit focused on infrastructure development, and it focused on development around Africa and some of the other BRIC member states. And it focused on reform of international organisations. And if you look at some of the main subtopics being discussed today, probably the most contentious issue is the reform of international organisations like the IMF, the World Bank, and the fact that a lot of the recommendations are coming up around development banks like the BRICS Development Bank, and why a lot of the infrastructure development suggestions are coming up around linking gap viability funding and long-term infrastructure projects is quite literally a direct parallel between what was discussed in March amongst BRICS member states and what continues to be expanded on by the G20. So I think it's a great extension of what's already been discussed, and a great way of reprioritising the role of emerging markets in global leadership structures today. Yeah. I guess at a social level, I've been unbelievably impressed by the level of English spoken by a lot of the locals. Felt incredibly welcome, incredibly warm, and unbelievably blown away by the professionality of a lot of the host liaison organisations and organisation committees. I don't know if we've ever attended quite as pampered a conference, and we just really felt spoiled by the level of organisation and professionalism. And I guess maybe just a more of a sort of social, touristic level, being able to be in a place which is lit up, going on to the early hours of the morning is quite special. It doesn't feel like life ever really switches off in a city like this in midsummer. It's been quite fantastic to be a part of that around the conference, that energy. Yeah.